Welcome to my channel, Hidden Points. Imagine for a moment stepping into the mind of someone who remembers every detail, every word spoken, every gesture, every subtle shift in tone or expression. To outsiders, it might seem like a gift, a superpower even. Yet, the psychology behind this capacity is far more complex, intense, and often shadow-laden. The first truth is that memory is never neutral. Every act of remembering is colored by perception, emotion, and unconscious patterning. The person who retains every detail doesn't just record information, they encode it into a network of meaning and significance, shaped by their personality, attachment patterns, and inner shadows. Let's go deeper. This capacity often emerges from heightened awareness and unconscious hypervigilance developed in early life. When a person experienced inconsistency, neglect, or emotional volatility as a child, the unconscious mind adapts. It intensifies observation and retention to anticipate threats and regulate interactions. This creates a neural architecture optimized for detail retention, pattern recognition, and emotional resonance. Now, consider projection. Every detail remembered carries an implicit interpretation and unconscious evaluation. The mind continuously links observation to expectation and judgment. When interacting with others, these individuals may unconsciously map past experiences onto present circumstances, creating an intricate web of associations that guides their perception and emotional response. To outsiders, this can appear as hyper-awareness, sensitivity, or even suspicion. Reflect on the shadow dynamics. Remembering every detail often intertwines with unacknowledged fear, control needs, and defensive strategies. When these shadows are unexamined, the capacity for memory becomes a tool for self-protection, judgment, and subtle manipulation. The individual might unconsciously hold grudges, track perceived slights, or anticipate betrayal based on past patterns, all while projecting meaning onto neutral interactions. Now, examine the relational impact. Those who remember every detail navigate social environments differently. Even minor inconsistencies or misalignments in behavior become salient cues for assessment and response. When integrated consciously, this capacity fosters precision, judgment, and empathy. But when left unconscious, it leads to distrust and isolation. The ability to remember every detail can intensify relational dynamics because small gestures carry disproportionate weight in their emotional processing. Consider the cognitive load. Retaining immense amounts of information continuously engages attention, executive function, and emotional evaluation. The unconscious mind is constantly triaging relevance, salience, and emotional impact, creating a high-dimensional map of social and environmental data that most people never perceive. This cognitive mapping shapes decisions, communication, and emotional reactions, often without conscious awareness. Now, reflect on the attachment implications. Memory intensity often mirrors attachment strategies. Anxiously attached individuals might recall perceived slights or inconsistencies obsessively, seeking reassurance. Avoidantly attached individuals may retain emotional data to maintain control and distance. Secure individuals, on the other hand, can integrate detailed memory with perspective and presence, allowing for balanced observation and informed decision-making. Let's examine the energy dynamics. Carrying every detail requires immense psychological energy, regulation, and awareness. When mismanaged, this capacity generates internal tension, anxiety, hypervigilance, and relational strain. But with integration of energy and attention, memory transforms into a resource for insight, emotional attunement, and strategic engagement. Reflect on identity formation. Memory intensity influences self-perception and personal narrative. The individual often defines themselves through an accumulation of observations and interpretations. When this is conscious, it creates self-mastery and insight. When unconscious, it produces defensiveness, projection, and shadow-driven behavior. Consider emotional literacy. Remembering every detail amplifies emotional resonance and emotional memory. Without conscious regulation, the individual experiences heightened sensitivity to slights, rejection, and relational misalignment. But conscious awareness allows nuanced empathy, calibration, and presence to emerge in their relationships. Now, explore the role of narrative. Detailed memory enables complex storytelling, self-reflection, and pattern recognition. When integrated with shadow awareness, this facilitates insight into behavioral patterns, relational dynamics, and personal growth. But when ignored or suppressed, it fosters rumination, judgment, and internal conflict. Let's examine shadow observation. Every interaction triggers unconscious evaluation and a subtle recording of emotional and behavioral cues. The individual unconsciously maps this data onto patterns of expectation, fear, desire, and their own internalized moral code. When conscious, these cues become tools for self-reflection and relational mastery. When unconscious, they become weapons of projection and mistrust. Consider the relational feedback loops. Remembering every detail creates a dynamic where partners and peers interact with heightened sensitivity. Unconscious or conscious reactions amplify the perception of microbehaviors and social cues. When navigated consciously, this fosters clarity and emotional intelligence. When navigated unconsciously, it generates miscommunication and relational friction. Reflect on the long-term cognitive effects. Hyper-detailed memory facilitates advanced pattern recognition, problem-solving, strategic planning, and emotional insight. When integrated consciously, it contributes to psychological resilience and self-mastery. But when neglected, it leads to overanalysis, rumination, chronic stress, and relational strain. Now, examine unconscious defense mechanisms. The mind may selectively recall or suppress certain details to manage internal tension and maintain ego coherence. Unconscious integration of shadow projections can transform memory from a reactive compulsion into conscious insight and relational navigation. Consider purpose alignment. Individuals who remember every detail often have a heightened capacity to detect patterns that inform decision-making and personal development. When applied consciously, this capacity becomes a tool for mastery, presence, and relational intelligence. Reflect on shadow integration. This intense memory carries both empowerment and a burden. By observing unconscious biases, emotional triggers, and projection patterns, the individual can consciously direct their attention and interpretation. They can transform memory from a reactive load into a conscious resource. Now, examine the behavioral consequences. Memory precision influences negotiation, social strategy, and leadership capacity. When integrated with shadow observation and emotional literacy, it becomes a resource for insight, influence, and stability. When ignored, it becomes a source of relational tension and internal conflict. Consider the existential implications. The retention of every detail amplifies awareness of impermanence, causality, and the subtle interconnections of human behavior. When observed consciously, this insight contributes to profound understanding and presence. When unconscious, it fosters hypervigilance and overinterpretation. Finally, reflect on psychological integration. The capacity to remember every detail is not merely a cognitive skill. It's an interface with shadow dynamics, attachment patterns, and emotional intelligence. The individual who integrates memory with conscious observation, emotional regulation, and shadow work transforms what may appear as obsession or hypervigilance into profound insight, relational intelligence, and psychological resilience. The unconscious impulses that drive this memory become tools for observation and growth. This is the hidden psychological reality of those who remember every detail, revealing the interplay of cognition, emotion, and shadow. It shows how conscious integration transforms memory from a compulsion into mastery, presence, and insight. Thanks for watching. If you found this insightful, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next video.